Well, in your own words, not mine, who are you? And what mission are you on?
That's a good question. The first one and very difficult one. I think my mission is something I'm discovering over the years because I could not plan anything of what I've done so far. So for me to discover, like every day is a new thing. And I'm someone very passionate about what I do. I discovered esports before they were called esports. So I think this was somehow my mission and I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, can you take us back to the early days for a little bit? I'd love to know more. When you first got into competitive gaming, what drew you in exactly? How did you start?
Well, now it's very easy to think about how am I going to start in competitive gaming because you have somehow someone to look up to. But at my time, that was something you could not even imagine. I just went into an internet cafe and I saw this wonderful game, Quake, Quake 1, actually, so long
Mm.
ago. And I
Mm-hmm.
really, I don't know, it was like falling in love with the game and with the fact that people were playing each other, and that was something very new at that time. Like now it's, of course, everyone is playing online with everyone and that's a normal thing, but over 20 years ago that was not something you could easily do. Not everyone had a
Mm.
computer at home, and for me it was something very special. I fell in love with it and I just said I want that game at home. I want to play it every day and I just want to
Mm.
get better at it, and it was the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Were you sort of a competitive person
Yes.
already around that age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing sports and I was
Ah,
competing
okay.
in
Yep.
volleyball, so I was already playing. And
Oh,
mm,
interesting. Yeah.
I love.
Did you end up bringing it home from the internet cafe? Did you end
Of
up getting it
course,
home
I did.
after?
Yeah. I mean, when I want
Okay.
something, I just go for it. And I kept asking, what do I
Yes.
need to
Okay.
do to play? How do I do this? So I convinced my parents I needed a computer at home because, of course, because of a school and all that. So, so
Ah.
they bought
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I managed to have Quake
Yeah.
very soon, and that was it.
I'm gonna get a little geeky. What were the specs of the computer that you had to play Quake?
I'd say it was a Pentium 1, or I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
throwback.
some,
Mm-hmm.
really one of the first PCs I think there were. Before that, I had a Spectrum, so I had even
Mm.
something ancient. Yes,
Those were the OG LAN days. You had to plug in and
totally. I just
yeah.
said I need to play a game. I mean, I most of the games you just needed this small floppy diskette. I don't know the name. These small things, and they were very tiny, and with 2 or 3 of these, you could have a game.
How long before you started like traveling and competing? How did that start from interest to bringing it home to actually going and
Mm,
getting out there?
yeah, at the beginning when we were playing Quake, there was nothing but these big LAN events like Campus Party in Spain, and very soon CPL came over to Europe. And with CPL, I saw like, wow, this is something for me. I for the first time I could follow. Of course, you didn't have any Twitch or anything like that, but you could follow on different websites that there was CPL, the Cyber Athlete, Professional League. All of the players were going there. I could like search for the
Oh wow.
names. That was the beginning. There was not so much information about it, so it was very difficult to
Mm.
find anything online. You didn't have a lot. But as soon as I managed to move a little bit around, find the right people, connect with them in IRC on the chat, I took the decision to go to the next big event that was in Europe. And I went to France.
Wow.
My parents were like, where are you going and why? And who's that people? And what's happening here? A lot of questions, but I just took my stuff and I went there. And there I met this SK, like Shred Commando was before in the past it was called Shred Commando. Then they moved into SK only to make it more international. But
Mm.
SK Gaming was the first people I met there. I had to go there because they wanted to prove I was a
Mm.
woman.
Ah,
That's something you could not find easily online otherwise. And I paid my trip there. Well, I managed to find a sponsor on my own, knocking
wow.
doors, and that was very strange and crazy because now I mean that's normal. You can make that happen. You can be more or less known, but you can make that happen. But at that time, it was impossible to find someone who would pay you a trip somewhere to play.
Yeah. How did you snag that? What did you pitch to them?
I I remember I was going to this very innovative company called Hasta Juegos that was in Spain. They were a French company as well. And they had a very cool idea, which didn't work at that time because I think they were having a great idea at the wrong time, and that happens a lot of times in life. But they had this server. It was a Quake server. Well, they had many servers, and they were open for everyone to join and play. And they thought it was a good idea to have someone known working for them in the company. So they thought, okay, we put the servers and Anouk in it, and people will just go. Of course, now you could do it with streaming and with creating content and all that, but at that time it was just a name on a website.
Wow. So in a
Right.
lot of ways, you were one of the first influencers before
Sort
it
of,
was even
Yeah.
an influencer community. Yeah, that's
So
great.
my job was actually to be inside of the servers playing with the people.
Oh,
And
wow.
Huh.
people were joining and like, hi, Anouk, hi, you're here. Yes, I'm here.
Oh, very cool. So you're that familiar
And
voice for
that,
them, like an ambassador almost in the game.
yes.
Got it.
But also to that people, I told them I want to go to that event. I want to join this club, like this organization SK, because they are the best in Europe and they are super known and they are super advanced and have a lot of ideas. I want to be part of them. And they said, okay, you just go there, we pay you the trip there, and we give you t-shirts, so you walk around with the Hasta Juegos t-shirt. And I did that. I don't think this became anything for them. Like I don't think people started going to the website because I had a t-shirt on, but yeah, it worked for me. It worked to go there and meet SK and join the team.
Wow. So you mentioned part of that journey was to prove that you were a woman in this space. I mean, that obviously, especially in the early days, because I remember all the OG lands that I would go to, and it was mostly guys. I mean, it was pretty rare that you would see a female competitor in the space. What was that like? And I'm sure you encountered some challenges around that.
In a way, you felt kind of special, like wow, I'm the only one, and nobody else is queuing for the toilets. So it's cool. But on the other side, it's true that over the month and the years, it was like I'm alone here. Why nobody else is playing? That's why I thought, okay, I have to do something about it, and I created back then a team and tried to. Every time I was playing and I saw a female name, I was trying to take everyone to the team. Do you want to join Bad Girls? Do you want to join Bad Girls? And they were like, yeah, okay. Where are you from? Poland. Okay, then you are Bad Girls Poland. Next day, where are you from? I'm from Romania. Okay, you are Bad Girls Romania. And I started making a lot of squads from girls everywhere, from everywhere in the world. Basically, it was because I wanted to have this community around me. I felt sort of alone. And about the challenges, I'd say the first one I had was when I wanted to join a Quake team in Spain. And there were two top teams, and I went to one of them and I said, I want to join you. And they were like, okay, we need some person to take care of all the administration of the, like the administrative side of the club, which is like what? Well,
Mm.
preparing the meeting so you can tell us when are we going to meet next and appointments and when are we going to have our practice time. I was like, no, I want to play. I don't want to do that. I want to play. So I accepted joining and doing that, preparing all the meetings and so on. I still have some papers where I was preparing, like, we met at 5 o'clock. Who came to the meeting? This, and this person. What did we talk about? The next event. And at some point, when someone was missing, they asked me, do you want to join? We need one. I was like, yes. And that was the beginning.
Oh, wow. I feel like that's pretty
But
common
I made it.
for a lot of women needing to do
Probably.
more in a role that you don't really want to be in order to get your foot in the
Probably.
door and prove
Yeah.
yourself or rub shoulders more with the
And
guys.
exactly. And only to have the chance when it's I will be here waiting, and at
Yeah.
some point it will be my turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. What have you? So you're obviously in Spain now, and that's where you grew up, correct?
Yes.
How have you seen sort of the landscape of Europe change throughout esports? I know that's a loaded question, but I mean, it's been what, 25 years for you in this
Yes.
industry? So I'm sure you've seen it go through lots of different phases. Can you talk about sort of how you've managed to stay relevant in the space as it evolves in Europe and what that looks like right now?
I'd say in these 25 years or over 25 years, I've seen it all, like everything that happened in the gaming industry, especially in Europe. I've been around it, and maybe not now anymore, but at the beginning we were not so many playing video games in a competitive level, so it was very easy to have track on everything and everyone, even though we didn't have social media or Twitch or anything like
Hmm.
that at the beginning. But it was very easy to, if you were connecting every day, you could meet the same people every day and meet the same people on the servers every day.
Mm,
So more or less, we
Yeah.
knew each other. And as soon as there were events, we were like spending our money to get there. There was no sponsorship or anything, so every time I could, I was just spending money to get there, to see the people, talk about Quake, and later on about Counter Strike. How what happens is there was no esports before, so I've seen how everything it became an industry. Before it was an industry, we were called cyber athletes and all this, but at some point it was like, okay, this is esports. From that point on, I started to go to every single event I could. Like if it was Quake, if it was CS. ES World Cup was a huge thing for many years, and we were going every year to Paris to play Poitiers, Paris. So it was changing the location, but we were always going from money from our pocket and just going there. At some point, we had the chance to finally have sponsors, and we went through this whole. It was 2008, I think, that we went to the US to play the ES World Cup in San Jose.
mm,
Hmm.
And after that, there was the crisis. So I've seen this super huge crisis in esports that kind of paralyzed everything. We lost a sponsorship. We lost, like, ESWC didn't happen that year. um, Everything was bad. The teams were splitting. All the sponsors were just stepping back. Like, this is not working. We are not monetizing the ecosystem. So why continuing doing that? So that year was crucial, and I think I always talk about this crisis because it was very good for the industry at the end of the day.
mm,
After that year, CS:GO came in, um, League of Legends came in, Justin TV, and then Twitch came in. So all these things happened in that period of time, and that means people were just having a lot of ideas, and like all the pieces were connecting. All the puzzle was kind of suddenly making sense, and the comeback of esports was huge because suddenly we saw big tournaments happening again. Sponsorship, not only endemic sponsorship, also the non-endemic brands were coming. That's something we never seen before. Like, you could not see McDonald's or
mm,
Nike or anything like that. It was just Nvidia, Logitech, and the same again.
Hmm.
So that was a huge thing for the industry. And living all that from the beginning until then was, for me, very good. And I think I'm very lucky to have been going through the whole thing. So being a pioneer is not something you decide in life; it just happens.
mm,
But I think my decision on staying is what made me be relevant all these years also, and continue
Hmm.
working in the industry until today. Many people just stop, like, because of family, because of friends, because of studies, because the crisis, many things that happen on the way made people stop playing.
Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, even just taking like a macro level view of what you just described, it's almost as if the economics of the industry has experienced similar, like any economy, like a boom and bust. But
Hmm.
I think what you're saying is that during these like bust cycles, that's really the time for innovation and really pushing the boundaries of what this industry means and how we approach the work in the industry. That's really unique and interesting. I think, as part of that journey, I'm sure, you've gone from playing as an athlete and then getting involved in multiple roles. I'm curious because, Bethany and I have worked with really a good amount of young and hungry athletes that want to be, the best competitor, but a lot of times they don't necessarily see the transition or the alternate pathways beyond just being a competitor. So, you obviously have had the 360 view. I'm curious, how did
Hmm.
you transition from being a player to other roles in the industry?
It was not that easy for me because when you don't have anyone in front of you doing that, so you know when is the right time to take that decision, like, I'm going to stop now playing, because like, you see that in sports pretty often, and you know more or less, and it's kind of obvious when you have to stop. But in esports, it's not that easy. And being like the first generation was for me difficult to take that decision, because I wanted to keep. I mean, I still today would like to keep on playing, and probably I could. I just took the decision at some point that I had to move on and do something different, because I don't know. I felt it was time. People was pressuring. Oh, you're 25, still playing. Oh, you're 30, still playing. Like, okay, when do I have to stop? Is it
Mhm.
right? Is it wrong? So I didn't know. But in my case, it's because I had different opportunities on the table and I just took them. And at some point, I had this question straight, like, do you want to be the player or you want to be the director, the CEO of this project? And I was at that time 20, no, 34 or 35, something like that. And I took the decision. I said, okay, I think maybe it's time to do it, or it's time to move to a different role. And I said, okay, I'm not going to be the player. I'm going to be the CEO. And it was not easy. But well, I thought it was the right time. Since then, I also had a lot of nice opportunities. And like you said, I have this 360 view, which is because I took chances. Like, I have this opportunity. Do I take it? What does my gut say? So what happens in the industry? It makes sense that now we create this or this other thing, because in many cases it's about creating new companies or new projects. So far it worked. And here I am.
Nice. So you described, going from a player to becoming a CEO. Can you talk more
Mm.
about like some of those roles? Again, because a lot of the community that we work with, they only see, a very small portion of the industry. So I'm
Right.
curious about what kind of roles you've played and, the types of organizations that you've spun up that are tangential to being a player.
I think you're right that young people needs to understand which options do they have. And I met many that say, I want to be a streamer, player, and have my own esports organization. And okay, there's just many things you can, of course, you can do, but maybe not all at the same time. This is
Mm-hmm.
not going to work, because you need to put an amount of time when you want to be a streamer, a different amount of time when you want to be a player, and it doesn't let you do anything else. You have to be focused on that. Mm, from player to CEO, I have to say that I was also growing as a professional. I was not just playing. I always had something parallel to playing. I was never a full-time player, which now is something that you can do because you get a salary.
Mm-hmm.
But at my time, I could not do that. So I had to work plus play plus some social life sometimes. But mainly I was working or studying and playing until I had a job. I worked at Nintendo while I was playing as well. So I've seen how it is to make a game from the inside, how it works, but at the same time I was competing. And it's one of the proposals I internally had at Nintendo, like, should we do esports? And they were like, no, we are focused on this in these games, no? And but I've tried. I have to say I've tried. Mm, but when I got the offer to become or to create this esports organization, uh, where I was supposed to play at the beginning, and then I moved into as a CEO. I came from a long period of being a lead tester and coordinating teams and so on at Nintendo, so I already had some background. But it's true that gaming gives you a lot of skills that you can use in your life. And I always tell people that, okay, maybe you won't start with your dream job. That's normal. So people are like, I want to work at Riot. Great, but just you have a journey to go through first. So you have to learn things, use the skills you have from gaming, which are very good, and they are valid for almost everything. It's not something you will only use in gaming. You can use in any other industry as well.
Is esports something that we build, or is it something that naturally evolves over time?
Hmm. I think it's both as well. So
Hmm.
on one side, there's a wild esports thing growing, but on the other side, we are part of this whole growing thing, and we are making it one way or another. So at the beginning, I was very protective with esports. I was like, no, this is our baby. We need to keep it as it is. Let's not touch it too much. This that happens to a lot of OGs actually, because we've been there from the beginning. We were few people. We wanted to protect this little baby, but it's true that
Yeah.
without all the other people coming after, it couldn't be as big as it became over the years. So it's good that other people came in, that people are trying to learn from it. It's also not good when a lot of people that is not part of the industry tries to come when they hear about billions of millions or whatever, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna be here for a while and sell things, and because this damages
Right.
the industry as well. So this kind of a smoke.
Yeah, then what kind of values do you see from those OG days sort of expressing itself now? What are some values you wish would stay around?
The real passion for what we are doing, like you can see who is a real passion, like a person that is really passionate about it. These kind of people that of course could even work for free sort of, because we started like that, but that shows that we were these kind of people that wanted to make it big for real, like with honesty, with, of course I want everyone to have a salary and have a good life around esports. It's not like let's work all for free, no, but this kind of mentality and how I think it was honest how we enjoy it, and this kind of thing made it
Hmm.
very magical in a way.
Hmm. Do you think community is still a big part of esports in its
Totally.
future? Yeah.
Totally, that's the other thing. It created a community. You belong to something that is very unique as well,
Mm.
and it happens in many conversations that you realize that many other people in the world doesn't really know about it. You're
Yeah, it
like,
still seems like a small space, like a small world.
yeah, we are
That's
in it.
scaled enormously, or maybe it's just the interconnectedness we all have now globally.
Also, but I mean, when we meet like the people we know about it and we speak to each other, it feels like everything is esports around us.
Yeah.
No, that's well, maybe it's like the system inside Facebook and all these kind of things that you have. Everyone thinks like me. See, this is the right thing, but when you talk to other people, they are like, but what do you do? You play, or
Totally. Yeah.
you create games?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still very niche in terms of sort of the outside world. And
Yeah,
are your parents and family still curious what you do, or have they figured that out?
they have no idea.
After 30 years.
I mean, they try, but the only good thing I'm very thankful that they, like my mom always said, I let you fly. This is something you love. This is
Mm.
something you like. I just see it's fine. You explain me what you're doing. I let you fly, and that for me was perfect. I could do everything I've been doing until now, and I'm very thankful about that.
Maybe throwing a little bit of a curveball. You know, we've been talking about the growth of esports. You've seen it grow from the OG early days, and we all dreamed about, you know, when will gaming and esports really hit the mainstream to the point where it's adopted by, you know, kind of just broader communities and culture. And obviously now with the recent announcement of esports in the Olympics, I'm curious, as a, you know, OG player in the space, did you ever imagine that they would consider it as a Olympic sport? And I'm curious to hear your opinion on it now.
I've been always very angry with the fact that we had to explain ourselves using other industries. Like we were forced the whole time to be defined. Are you this or that? Are you sports or not? And I think we have enough personality and like a lot of things happening, a lot of own creations, and like we are an industry on our own, and we didn't need to be defined that way. Of course it makes sense when people needs to understand something, you try to use words of, yeah, this is like this or like that, and it has a lot like sports, of course, but we are esports, and we should embrace the fact that we are something different as well. And that's why in a way I don't like it when when I get this question all the time, like, are we sports or not? There are many things that are exactly the same. Of course, we have to practice, we have teams, we copy a lot of the things we've seen in that, but I think we created as well many other new things that let us already be this unique thing that has its own name and its own space and its own rules as well.
Yeah, it's funny to hear now how the Olympic esports movement is referring to esports. They're actually calling it "quote unquote" traditional esports, given that they're also including things like you know, virtual sports and
Hmm.
simulation sports as well. So
Yeah, I mean that's makes it confusing for people as well. But because for me, not every game is an esport. For,
Hmm.
first of all, so that you put it in the Olympics doesn't make it an esport either. But I'm not unhappy about it. I mean, it's fine that they are in the Olympics and that they take in consideration including more. Don't know the word. Specialities. I don't know, including different things that are not physical sports. That's fine, but you cannot make either you decide to put it esports, and esports are what they are, so the big ones, League of Legends, Counter Strike, etc., or you decide to make it virtual sports in the Olympics. For me, are two
Mm.
different things. Don't know if
No,
I made
that's
sense.
yeah, no, that's really that's really interesting. I mean, I find it really similar to the idea of like, let's say skating,
Mm.
like skateboarding in the Olympics, right? You had the X Games for the longest time, and the X Games still exist, but now that it's in the Olympics, it's a whole other thing. But there was the same sort of pushback around the inclusion of it as a sport and at the same time advocacy. So it's interesting to see the same thing happen with esports, but we'll see where it goes. Yeah.
To me, it is like forcing something that it is not happening naturally.
Mm,
Because if you think about it, in esports we had World Cyber Games and all these kind of things that were thought
hmm
like sort of Olympics. There was countries playing each other, and that's very cool. Or ESWC had that for a while. Then they realized it was not that easy, so or not that interesting. People wanted to mix with different. So you wanted the best players, not. It worked much better than having the countries playing each other at that time when
Hmm.
when this happened. Now I'm not following the numbers, but I'd say it would be probably the same. And the teams that play together for something with national teams, they go play this national competition and then they go back to their teams where they really have the strong team play.
Yeah, no, I think we've definitely Bethany and I have dealt with a lot of the national teams, and to see the dynamics of whether they're pro players or pro amateur or just amateur players, and yeah, there's a lot of nuance I think just with how players are dealing with being on a national team. So we'll see how it evolves. I'm sure we could spend a whole nother podcast just diving into Olympics for sure.
No, that's right. I think esports will always have to have its own sort of platforms and teams and franchises existing outside of the Olympics, and the Olympics sort of needs to catch up to us. But we can't count on the Olympics being peak esports either. Although one of my favorite pieces about it being in the Olympics, not only does it validate, I think, athletes and esports players as athletes, this cross cultural exchange that could happen. I mean, we're talking about a lot of countries coming together for something like this. How has sort of cross cultural exchange and experiences with other cultures impacted you through esports? Because I know, regardless, not an Olympian yet, but I'm sure you've already expressed going to France when you were young. How has meeting folks from other cultures sort of impacted you throughout the years, and do you see that as something valuable for players?
That was great. I mean, one of the good things of I would continue supporting if there are country competitions and so on. It's because of this. Like
Mm,
this is so much fun.
mm,
It's very interesting. I remember we had that one chance once a year to meet the Brazilian, the North American teams, the Chinese teams, and you could not play them online. It was impossible. We had different ping, different time.
mm-hmm.
It was impossible to play each other. So when an event like that happened, and we were 32 teams meeting at ESWC, for example, it was a very cool thing. We also could not have the opportunity to know how they were playing. That was very difficult to find, or you needed to have a friend of a friend that could record a demo, and that demo somehow you could like get it and watch it. You would not know anything about them until the event. And we would, I remember the Chinese that they were playing this, I don't know the name in English. You have this game where you close your eyes and you have to listen to the voice of your mates and you have to know where they are. Something, I don't know if it has a name.
Oh, Marco
Yeah,
Polo.
yeah,
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 some yeah, kind of like this. They were playing this before the games, And we thought,
Interesting.
what are they doing? But for them, it was maybe a way of making a nice atmosphere or having fun or just focusing on what was going to happen next. Or I don't know, or listening to the voice of your mate, something you're going to do in game as well. That was interesting to see. We never did done something like that, so it was like, wow, why they do that? So when you see other cultures, you learn a lot of things. And in game, they were also playing differently. You're supposed to attack as a in the T side when you're playing CS. T side you're attacking, no, in the city side you're defending.
Mm-hmm.
They were attacking as cities. And we
Interesting.
were super
Yeah.
surprised. The first, like the second round or third round, they were just coming. Oh, what is happening? The cities are coming to us. So they surprised us. And then, as in the T side, they were super slow. So you wouldn't know if in the last 20 seconds they were coming in and planting. And what is happening with these people? They play so different. And you learn a lot about people. You then after the game you meet them in the corridors at the hotel, and it's a lot of new experiences. I mean, we don't, maybe now we do, but 25 years ago people would not speak English that much in Spain, or not like not too good. And I learned much more by traveling to events than I was learning at school. And I mean, I can see now my first interviews, and I'm like, wow, it was so bad. Saying that now it's not saying that now it's perfect, but at that time it was like, yes, yay, here, you know. So I have an interview from CPL. It's so bad. Oh my god! But that was the way I've learned the language, not in school.
Interesting. Yeah.
No, I love that. I mean, cultural exchange, learning about not even just their, cultures in their country, but even just the cultural rituals and things like that go on in the game. I think that's really interesting.
That's so interesting.
Again, that could be a whole another podcast of exploring play styles.
Yeah.
We would have 1,000 different stories that happened between. Now the French said this, and then we met with the Danish, and it was crazy, but it was a lot of fun. Really, it was a lot of fun.
Well,
wow, no, that's great.
Anna, if you could go back in time now, after all these years, what advice would you give yourself? Would you do anything different?
Maybe to not be so hard on myself. Like I'm still a perfectionist. Like everything I do, I want it to be perfect. And at that time, I was
still grinding. Yeah.
But it was a problem at that time because I put so much pressure on myself that sometimes I didn't enjoy enough what I was living, and I didn't perform as good as I could have because I was, putting all this pressure on me. Like, you have to be better, you have to do better, you have to kill more, you have to, and that was not good. And I've learned that at some point because my father, just one day I was crying after an event. I was crying. We qualified and still I was crying because I didn't play well. And he said, you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, it doesn't make any sense what you're doing. And the next event I did change my mindset and I did very nicely. I played so nice. We lost. But I was not unhappy because I did my best. It was, of course, it's a team game and it's not only about you, but I managed to change my mindset. That's something I would tell myself much earlier. Yes.
Are there any?
I totally feel that.
Are there any nuggets from those days of needing to ground yourself and sort of reset that you carry on now, even into the industry side of things? When things are high pressure, in a positive
way?
Yeah, when things get high pressure, are there things that you do now to ground yourself that sort of
I work very well under pressure.
Yeah.
Maybe thanks to all these
I think
years.
So.
Because if you think about it, I was not just playing. I was studying, I was working, I was playing every single day. And that gave me like my life was very structured. And this is something I keep always, like since then. I still do it nowadays. I'm very structured. I have very clear what I'm going to do. My mind is super focused on now is this and that, and I don't have to think about this because it's next week. So I think this comes from this period of time where I had to do many things in a day, in a week, in a month, every day.
Yeah, it's such a stereotype. I mean, you're breaking that massive stereotype of what a gamer is too. You're saying structure is something that gives you guidance now in life, when I think a lot of people think of gamers as, lazy and they just grind all
Totally.
day or whatever. I mean, you're
I
explaining
went,
the complete opposite.
and it's for me, it's been the opposite. I remember going to an interview, and after the first 3 questions was here in Spain in a TV show, and they said, "Well, you're normal." I was like, seriously, for a second, I was like, "What do you mean I'm normal?" Like, well, you are talking to us, and you don't seem to be shy, and well, yeah, because they had that image of we were sitting inside of a cave and maybe not talking to anyone and don't know. And I said it's the opposite. We need to talk to each other to play. It's not always nice, especially when you go to a public server. It can be that you meet people that is not nice to you,
Yeah.
but doesn't mean you don't have to talk. It's something you need to do in order to win. You need
Yeah,
that.
in life too. Yeah. And
I
you
love
And you
that
taking
have
the
because
initiative
now
so young to go out and do all of these things. I mean, I think most parents would be happy just to get their kid to go do anything. You're out there going to France on your free time trying to get sponsors to do something
yeah.
you love. Yeah, very indicative of who you are.
I also use that to tell them, look, I'm not going out late at night. I'm not drinking. I'm not on drugs. See, I'm just playing video games. and,
See?
and I still study and work at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's why probably they said, okay, you have our, blessings. You can go.
it's funny now. I feel like with all the gamers being much older, I think you can be that CEO interviewing someone else that's not a gamer.
That's right.
And just saying, are you normal? Because we're all normal.
Exactly. I could do that from now on, just as revenge.
Well, Anna, it was so nice to get to talk to you today and pick your brain. And I think there's more to come, obviously, with you. Where can folks follow you or find your work and what you're up to these days?
I'm always on social media, like Twitter, X, or whatever it's called now. I started my Threads. I use it sometimes. Instagram, I love it. And LinkedIn.
Perfect.
It's a very good place to find me.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Go follow Anna and see what she's up to. And again, thank you so much for talking to us today. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.